Queen's Happiness Decoded. Join me as I explore what it means to be a woman today and what controls our happiness. Out now in paperback, Kindle, and now on Audible. So, Lindsay, please tell me why you are the scariest lesbian in Newcastle.
Oh, I did. It was more of a tongue-in-cheek thing when I called myself that. So basically, the individual who wrote the original complaint about me to get me into trouble with the football club turned around and basically said that someone with my views and my opinions on gender and trans and whatever would be a danger to everybody in the stadium and I make everyone feel unsafe. So my attitude was then, little old me is a danger to a stadium of 52,000 people, which is predominantly men as well, by
Yeah,
the way.
absolutely.
So a lesbian woman holding these gender critical views and these views around my own community as well is so utterly terrifying that I had to be removed entirely. So I thought the best name to give myself was clearly I must be utterly terrifying, so I must be the scariest lesbian in Newcastle.
I
So,
love it, Lindsay, because it just goes to show the ludicrousness. Now, for any of
yeah,
our listeners who aren't familiar with what comments you said and where you said them, so I think it was on X, wasn't it?
yeah.
Just tell us, these are legally held beliefs that many of us who understand biological reality hold. What was it that you said that was so awful?
So I mean, there was a load of things that they ended up going with, but ultimately, when I got banned by the club, they settled on three things that I'd said. One of them was like a post I put, which was just your daily reminder: trans women are men.
Yeah.
Um, so that was one. Another one was
Which of course they are, by
yeah,
that you can only be
yeah,
a trans woman if you are a man, for anybody who doesn't understand
yeah,
the terminology there, yeah?
yeah. They had an issue with there was a post I'd made saying basically that this time is going to be looked at upon with disgust about what they're doing with the children,
Yeah.
the mutilation and the sterilization of children. And I basically said, I'm going to be able to stand up and say I never stood by it and
Yeah,
and agreed with it.
the
Um,
puberty blockers
yeah,
and the surgery, yeah.
yeah. So they didn't like that one. I made a comment about men wanting to come into women's sports, basically saying it shows the level of narcissism that they seem to think there's not enough of them to form a sports team. So we all have to now step aside and allow them into our sports.
Mhm.
And the club kind of took that as me calling all trans people narcissists. And I'm like, no, that it's the level of narcissism within the entitlement, I suppose, that
Yeah,
whereas there wasn't enough women to form sports teams when we began, but you get on with it and you do it. If you really want to play sport, that's what you do.
yeah.
And then the big one was someone had been having a go at me saying I was giving out like homophobic rhetoric and I was getting called every name under the sun, Nazi and stuff. And it was like a thread, so my explanation was under this comment, but that obviously wasn't included. And I just said, you do realize the trans ideology is based off of a Nazi,
Yeah.
right? Which is obviously me making a comment towards like the experimentation, like the likes of Joseph Mengele and things like that, which I've explained multiple times. But the club took it as me calling all trans people Nazis. So
Oh, the irony there that
yeah,
you were called a Nazi as well, and that's a really interesting one. That was your biggest crime, do you think, out of all those comments?
yeah. I think that was the worst one out of it. I think that was the one that they took the most umbrage with, I suppose. Which I think now looking back, because the thing is, when I'd done that as well, I'd had people piling on me all day. I
Can
used to get a
imagine.
lot of abuse even before this started, which doesn't bother me. I'm built for it. But I'd had a drink as well. I think it was like a Friday night, so I was getting a little bit leery, so maybe there was a better way I could have said it.
Yeah,
Maybe a more politically correct way to say it, maybe. But we're not all going to sit there and run our tweets through a PR team every time we send them out. We're just going to say what's on our mind and you press send. The last thing you expect is for someone to go stalking through your account and send a whole shed load of things you've said in to try and paint you as a certain individual. That was the last thing on my mind when I did it. I was just fighting my corner. So
of course you
here
were,
we are.
and of course, we all in this country we are all allowed to blow off steam. We are all allowed to have free speech, and you didn't do any threshold there that would have been remotely criminal. And that's the important, no matter how maybe you thought you could have used better language, it's
Yeah.
not really the point, is it, Lindsay? Because you are allowed to say that, you're allowed to defend yourself, and you're allowed to blow off a little bit of steam in this
Yeah.
country. So talking of that, and talking of people trolling through your tweets,
Yeah.
what happened next?
So I think it was the way it all kind of worked out. Obviously, I was unaware it was all going on. I was looking to see when the ballot for, I think it was a Chelsea game, would open, and I saw it was going to open like the next day or something. So I thought, oh well, I'll get me and my friend in because our accounts were linked. So I'd link us both in and put us in the ballot. And then above it, there was an email from the security office saying that my membership had been suspended because I was under investigation with Northumbria Police for a hate crime. And that
Wow.
was when I was just like, eh? I read it a few times and I was thinking, surely I'd know if I'm under investigation for such a serious
Yeah.
offence, I suppose.
Yeah.
So then I think I called the security office. They were adamant I was. And then I went straight to the horse's mouth and I called Forth Banks police station, the police station where I eventually ended up getting interviewed in, funnily enough. And they couldn't find anything. So then I made a report thinking I was getting targeted, myself, because I did get targeted quite a lot. All kinds of stuff was said to me. And then I went back to the club, and it was like a back and forth, really, of, the police said I'm not, the club said I am, and it's not until later everything starts to unravel, really, the more information that I get, obviously, with the help of certain individuals who we'll get into later. So yeah, a few days passed. I think I got a call on the Saturday about the report I'd made. Even the police were unsure if it was genuine what I'd gotten. They thought it was maybe someone making fun and whatever else. And I didn't really hear any more. And then I think it was the Wednesday of the following week, I got home to a slip through my door that said victim support with a police officer's name on and a number. And I thought, oh, well, maybe that's about the report I've made.
Yeah.
And then I called the number, and that was the first time it was I was invited in for an interview under caution over allegations that had been made. So that was, it took over a week for it to actually formulate into actually being a real thing for me, really, because by that point I'm thinking it's not real, and I'm getting frustrated thinking
Yeah.
someone's telling me lies. So yeah, that's kind of the way it went. I agreed to go in for an interview the next day. I didn't tell anyone because I was terrified, so I kept it to myself. I didn't sleep, I felt sick. And I think I finished work about 1:30 on the Thursday. My interview was at 5. And I reached out to a couple of gender critical friends on my ex account, and within about 20 minutes, I had the number of Harry Miller of Faircop. I called him, left a voicemail, and then I thought nothing more of it. Just carried on being scared. Unbeknownst to me, my friend had also reached out to Graham Linehan. Graham Linehan made a direct call to Harry. Harry then listened to my voicemail and called me straight back, and that was just how it all started rolling for me, really. I was incredibly lucky. Incredibly lucky. I can't thank them two enough.
They're just amazing because, of course, Harry set up Fair Cop because of
Yeah.
what happened to him. I think was his a limerick, a gender critical limerick. He put on
Yeah.
X, I think, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
he
it
got
was.
he had to adjust his thinking. It was some kind of creepy saying he was told to, yeah, you're thinking too much or something awful like that.
You
The thought
came to
police
his door and said, I'm here to check your thinking.
check your,
Yeah,
oh
that's what he
gosh,
said to him. Yeah.
so sinister.
Sends
And
shudders down you, doesn't it?
it really does. And so did Harry, was he able to advise you before you went into that interview?
So he basically, because I'd locked my account down by this point because, I don't
Yeah.
really know what anyone's doing. Um, Harry followed me on the account, went through all my Twitter. Now, bearing in mind, I had deleted some things because I was so scared. At this point, I don't really even understand what my rights are on free speech because for years you have it drilled into you that you can't say certain things, and you almost don't even really understand what your rights are around freedom of expression. That's the most terrifying thing.
Yeah.
Um, and Harry looked through everything, and then he came back and he said, "Look, what's the worst thing you think you've ever said?" And I said, "I think the worst thing I've ever said is I called a trans woman's um, vagina a rot pocket. And he
Mm-hmm.
laughed and he said, that's not a hate crime. So then he called the police officer, sent him all this stuff from his ruling over, told him that I wouldn't be going in for interview and to basically leave me alone. And then he phoned me back. He said, you can relax. And then I did. I was about to, I think I was cooking my tea, and then there was a knock on the door, and there was two police officers at my door.
So that night,
A couple
the
of
night
hours
you were
later that
supposed to
night,
go in,
yeah,
right?
the
Yeah.
night that we're supposed to be reviewing all that information, they decided to come to my door and try and force the way in to do the interview there and then, which obviously I didn't let them do.
Good.
Um, my
Because a lot
partner,
of people, sorry, Lindsay, a lot of people don't know that you don't have to let the police in, do you?
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of people think you do have to, because the police, right? Unless they're arresting you, you don't have to let the police in.
yeah, no, they had no right. Obviously, like you say, it's an invite to an interview as well, but there's that added threat of, well, if you don't come in, we can arrest you and make you come in, kind of thing. So it's not really an invite. It's quite coercive.
Yes.
So I didn't let them in. I agreed to go in the next day. I think it was the next morning I called Harry and told him, and he was furious that they'd come to my door. So he agreed that I should go in for the interview, and we both agreed. When he suggested it, we agreed that I would secretly record it because they don't search you when you go in.
Right.
They don't take your phone or anything off of you. So before I went in, my lawyer that I was given, yeah, they sit and talk to the police about everything that's going on, and then I got taken in, and I set my phone to record, and I had my hat on, this hat, because I wear this hat everywhere I go, everywhere I go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had that hat on, and I set record on my phone. I took my hat off, and I just sat my hat on top of my phone and just left it there to record the whole interview, which I'm glad I did because I wouldn't have been able to relay it in any way,
Yeah.
because I was so scared. And then as soon as I got out, I just sent it on to Harry, and then Harry transcribed it, put it all on Twitter, and it just went mental, like absolutely mental.
So did you no comment throughout that interview?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah, and under Harry's advice.
yeah,
And so presumably Harry, who, was an ex-policeman, I think, wasn't he, Harry? Or was
yeah.
he
He's a
police?
former
Yeah.
police officer. Yeah.
Former police officer. And so he's already contacted the police. The police have done this interview with you. What happened next?
So he transcribed everything. He then, obviously, because it was all nonsense as well, I'm being asked like if I have a lawful reason for using the platform and things like that, and questioned like why I have hashtag LGB and stuff. It was all really quite silly.
Yeah.
By this point as well, I know I've been lied to, so I've already put a subject access request in with the football club because I knew someone was telling me porcupine somewhere along the way. Um, but then Harry got Toby Young in touch with me, and the Free Speech Union started taking it all on. I got my subject access request back, and that was when I think it took about 30 days for it to get to me. And it was at that point, because by this time I think we're bordering into November, towards November, because my dog had passed away only a few weeks
Oh,
before all this started as well.
oh
He was a good
no.
boy. So I remember he passed away in October, and I think we were bordering into November at this time. And it was then when I looked at it, I realized that this whole thing of them looking into me, it hadn't just started when I got the email. They'd actually been investigating me since end of June, beginning of July in the year.
So,
So this had been going on for months before I even knew anything about it. And then I'm obviously going down, looking at everything, seeing what's been said. And then that was when I came across the Premier League target profile that I saw. And that was just mind
mind
blowing.
blowing.
Yeah, it was the emotions that went through me. I think there was anger, sadness, frustration, violation. There was just so many different emotions went through me at that point.
So all you'd been up until this point, somebody had reported you to Newcastle
Yeah,
Football Club. They'd then looked into you without you knowing about it. They'd
yeah,
contacted the Premier League and they'd put a dossier on you that they would normally use for racists or like football hooligans. They would do this investigation. You knew
yeah,
that they'd looked where you walked your dog, and that's how you knew it was before as well, because your dog had
mhm,
passed away.
yeah.
Was it the name of the church behind your house? And A
Yeah, yeah,
14 pages dossier on you.
yeah.
All of this off the back of somebody complaining. Now, another really important point here was there was no victim, was there,
Yeah,
of
never
this
any victim.
crime?
Yeah, there was never any victim. As much as people have tried to portray that I targeted people, even in the Premier League report, there's a page where it says there's no evidence of me targeting anyone ever. And then there was a full page. It said, but it does appear that Miss Smith is the target of online abuse. And there was pages of abuse that I've received. And
Yeah.
all of that was just utterly ignored, completely ignored. Like it was like it didn't exist. So
God.
maybe
Yeah.
I deserved it. I don't know.
No, well, I don't think so. I mean, I've been on X many years, and the amount of rape and violent threats that women get for just state and legally held beliefs, biological reality. Look at J.K. Rowling; she said she could
Yeah,
wallpaper her house, her castle, or whatever, with the amount of rape threats she's had.
yeah,
Kelly J. Keane. I mean, the list goes on, doesn't it? So
yeah.
really, what you said, your opinion was very, very mild. Yet you've been subjected to this, and then Newcastle United, so they'd forced this issue with the police. Should really the police, when they got in touch with them, just said this is a matter for you to sort out? Should they have even got involved, the police?
Not really, no. Not at all, to be honest. I mean, the
Yeah,
whole police thing has been held as a separate issue. That's something I obviously fought with Harry Miller, and what the police getting involved is what obviously ended up leading to the judicial review, and in Pride and everything like that. So there was a massive can of worms opened by Newcastle United just even entertaining this one complaint, because the rippling effect of what me, Harry, and everyone's been able to do as a result of that has just been astronomical, to be honest.
it's
Um,
been remarkable, actually. So you found
mhm.
out that you did a subject access request. You found all of this out, and then pick us back up here, Lindsay. So you're really confused. You're really disturbed. They've been doing an investigation on you. Where is it up to at this point?
So it's basically waiting to find out if I'm going to get banned. Really, we're trying to fight my corner. We haven't really gone to the papers or anything like that with it, because we're waiting to see if the club are going to be, in the position
Had
where
the
they're going to
police
decide to ban me.
charged you with anything at this point?
No, so the police basically they told me there'd be no further action, because I know commented in, like you say, there was no victim or anything like that anyway. But it turns out that the police have gone back to the club and said that they couldn't prosecute me because they couldn't prove the account was mine. Which anyone could prove the account was mine. To be honest with you, it's not a difficult task, at all. But it was just the way the police portrayed to the club that I had committed a crime, and
Yeah.
that had I admitted it was mine, I would have been up for prosecution and things like that, which gave the club that emboldening to go ahead and ban me the way that they did, because it was, well, you did commit a crime, but it was just because of this. So, you're banned basically for 3.5 seasons. And then we appealed it robustly, and they upheld it. And then obviously that was the point when Toby was like, okay, and Toby came up to Newcastle, and we went public with the whole thing.
Wow. And so that was you were banned, and that was the end of the conversation. Now, at this point, the police action has stopped against you, is that right?
Yeah,
So there is no further. So so you've been dragged in for interview, and they've said there's no crime committed, but yet Newcastle have persisted with the ban.
yeah,
And you have had some amazing news now, haven't you,
yeah,
about your ban?
yeah.
So what has happened with that?
Well, we've managed to get it lifted over a year early, which is phenomenal. We've ended up being able to come to an agreement with the club, like a joint statement, because I think I express this to everybody. Like, there's certain people think I've been in it for the money and this, that, and the other. Never been about that for me. Never, ever. It's been about standing up for myself, really, and what I believe is right. And it's obviously, in the beginning, it was about standing up for myself. As it's worn on, it's just turned into something so much bigger, something bigger than I even ever imagined it was going to end up being. Um, so yeah, we've ended up just coming to an agreement where they've acknowledged, in the statement that I hold gender critical beliefs. They've acknowledged about the abuse that I've suffered, which I made sure we got in there. And they've agreed to lift the ban effective immediately, really. So I got all the confirmation last night that everything's signed, sealed, and delivered. So now I'll
Oh,
finally be able to talk about it publicly, which is lovely.
I'm so happy, Lindsay. And are you going to go back to the club? You love Newcastle. It's in your blood, your whole family. How do you feel about? Have they apologised to you?
No, no. But
Right.
I can't really see that happening. I mean, even with the police and everything I did with them and the complaint, they've had to admit they did wrong in what they did with me. But even then, it's been a quite a half-hearted. As the police said was sorry for the position she found herself in. So I think to expect a wholehearted apology from organisations like this is it's never going to happen. So
Yeah.
I kind of need to just take what I can get.
Yeah.
For me, I've had my ban lifted, which is all I ever wanted in the beginning. I've had acknowledgements of my views, and the abuse that I have suffered online. And to be honest, I've been a pain in the arse for them and I've cost them a bit of money as well. That's something they never imagined. They never imagined in a million years that I would be able to do what I've been able to do. I did warn them on the phone. I said, I'm going to sue you. I'm going
Good.
to sue the arse off of you. And they kind of mocked me and said, go ahead. I said,
Oh,
believe me.
well,
Yeah, believe me, I will. And I don't think they ever in a million years imagined
that
it
you
would
would.
it would go as far. I didn't think it would, but here we are. So I think I'd like to think they've also learned a valuable lesson
I
in
hope
all of
so.
this as well.
And Lindsay, you said that it started off as, just you're up for your own kind of self-respect and you knew you hadn't done anything wrong. But what has been the impact on your life? Because it's quite profound, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so I lost my relationship, my 5.5 year relationship. The strain on it all and everything, the stories, the articles, the abuse, the things that were said, the pressures. Because 2 years ago as well, it was a lot harder to talk about this just two
It
years
was,
ago
it
than
was
what it is
Lindsay.
now.
Yeah,
So the pressures were so much more different. Um, as a result of obviously losing my relationship, I lost my home because I had to move out.
yeah,
Um, there's the ability for me to be able to walk around. Like I'd say, people have said I haven't lost my reputation, but my character's been disparaged a lot.
yeah,
There's people around that have an opinion of me now, of the person I am, and it's just so completely wrong. But it's because of stories that are spun. And I think that's one of the biggest things you can learn through this is you can't really, strangers on the internet are irrelevant. They don't know me, they don't know my heart, they don't know the person I am. So what they think about me really is irrelevant. But at the time, it can get you down, it can hurt.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and it's taken a lot, and it's taken its toll on me emotionally, physically. I think at times there's times I could have lost my mind.
Yeah,
Been a
yeah,
lot of tears and a lot of down moments. But yeah, I think as well, if I look at it really, the experiences I've had because of it, the people I've met, the things I've been able to do, and like we met a battle of ideas,
yeah,
the people I've managed to meet and the difference I've been able to make that I never dreamed I would ever be able to do. I think I can look at all of that now and I can say it far outweighs the bad that's happened in my life because there's people I've met now that are going to be friends for life, and the people I never ever would have met had this not happened to me. So
yeah,
you know I think you have to take the good with the bad, and I can definitely say that looking back on it all now, as hard as times were, I wouldn't change it. I'd do it again, absolutely,
yeah.
if I had to.
And actually, Lindsay, to your point there, it can't be overstated that 2.5 years ago to say that you think that trans women are men, or they are, and a lot of the gender critical beliefs, right up until the Supreme Court ruling that was only in April this year,
Yeah,
it was, yeah, I have caught a lot of flack myself. That's how I'm in this movement for women's rights, and I didn't ever imagine it would be down this route for women's rights as well.
yeah,
I was far more interested in, gender pay gap and menopause and stuff like that. And actually, it took a different direction. When I saw the level of misogyny being hurled at women who were stating their legally protected rights, their boundaries, their right to
yeah,
express their opinions. And I don't like identity politics, Lindsay, but you're a lesbian. LGB. I
Yeah.
am of that ilk as well. I believe it's lesbian, gay, bisexual. They were the group, if you like, that needed protection. You look back at the Stonewall riots, it was an activist movement and it was needed at the time. But I want to bring that back to how you then went on to go after the police around their involvement in Pride, because this
Yeah.
is really impressive after what you've been through. And it's really important that people understand that this is not against pride. This is that police are supposed to police without fear and favour for
Hmm.
us, the public. It's actually they're there in a position of trust, aren't they? What
Yeah.
happened about the pride stuff with the police?
So it was again just working with Harry Miller. We put a complaint in obviously about the way I was dealt with, and all of this other stuff was going on. And it just kept getting worse and worse. Like, you're seeing the vans and everything around all the time. And I ended up meeting up with my lawyer, Paul Conraith, who ended up working with me the whole way through. And we sat there and we were like, we just saw all these identity politics, and we sat there and we thought, you know what? It's against the law what they're doing. It is against the law. They can police Pride. Absolutely. No one's got an issue with them policing Pride.
Yeah,
No one's even got an issue with if you're an off-duty police officer in plain clothing going and attending Pride. Crack on if that's what
absolutely.
you want to do. Just
Yeah,
don't let anyone know you're a police officer. But to stand there and march and dance and wave flags and do all this, you're basically showing the public where you stand and where you align, where you favour. And you can't do that. As a gay woman, I can't stand them doing that. I don't want them to do that. And it's not just in Pride either, it's everywhere, whether you're looking at
yeah,
pro-Palestine, or if they were walking down the street holding a women's rights flag, a suffragette flag,
yeah.
I'd
That would
object to
be
that,
wrong. Me
because you
too.
can't do it. You're supposed to be there as a neutral member there to protect each member of the society. Everyone should feel equally able to come up to you and ask for help and know
Yeah,
that they're going to receive that help. And a lot of it really was the way I was handled for what I'd said, and then when the police are handed things that have been said to me, and the lack of vigor in them to investigate that the same way they investigated me, it just rubbed me the wrong way entirely. And that was where it all started to begin. Really, I'm thinking, I know where you align. You show it when you're marching in Pride, and we need to do something about this now. So
yeah.
that was where it all kind of began, and the grand master plan with me and Harry Miller came to be. Me, Harry, and Paul, and James Gardner, and everyone like that. Tom Cross, who was my barrister for the whole thing, he was phenomenal. Um, so yeah, it ended up just turning. I mean, I didn't imagine it would end up being what it was, but we ended up changing the law while we were at it. So
And what
incredible.
did you bring? Was it to Northumbria?
It was the Chief Constable, Vanessa Jardine. We thought she was the key person to go for.
Yeah.
So Harry'd wanted to get her for what she was doing with Pride for a while, not as in get her, but it's
Yeah,
because she's
it's not
she's the
right, is it?
lead. Well, she's the lead in Pride. She's the
Yeah.
person who does it all for the whole country, I suppose. She is the top dog for it all when it comes to LGBTQ plus whatever, and enforcing stuff like that. I think she's the one who was responsible for allowing men identifying as women to strip search women. So she was the one. If you were going to go for it, she was the one that you had to go for, because she was the one who was implementing all of these terrible policies. And it just so happened that the person Harry found himself with was a lesbian from Newcastle, who was under the jurisdiction of Vanessa Jardine, and the cards all just fell into place. And we're very similar, me and Harry as well, incredibly similar. I think if you saw us sat next to each other, you'd think we were related in some way, shape, or form. To be honest with you, it's yeah.
And yeah, so with that, what was the outcome of that you managed to get?
So basically, we proved in law that it's unlawful for the police to march in Pride in any sort of colours. The judge agreed with us when it comes to the vehicles. All of the police Pride vehicles and everything, they've all been what's the word? They've all been
Debranded.
decommissioned. They were all decommissioned. They've all been got rid of. There's probably a little graveyard filled with rainbow police cars at the minute. That's looking very sad.
Yeah,
But they've all been decommissioned. They're all gone, because you can't have it. That's pontificating. There can't be wearing lanyards and things like that. Like if they're there at Pride, they could say, for example, Pride, they had a pop-up stand and police are allowed to be there as police community support, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no rainbows or anything like that. Just be there to offer advice and let the public know that you're there, whether it's the people of the gay community or whatever else and all the rest of society. Um, so yeah, we basically proved that it was unlawful for them to be doing anything, any way, shape, or form, and that if the judge basically ruled that people like myself, even though I'm a lesbian woman, gender critical, people like you, if we were to object to something we saw in that Pride event, or we were to be the victim of a crime,
Yeah.
we wouldn't feel safe or comfortable going to a police officer who is dancing and wearing the colours of the people that we want to complain about, because
Yeah.
they're showing which way they're leaning. Um, and that's not right in society. It really isn't, and it doesn't matter which way it goes. Like I say, whether it's Palestine, Israel, and if they want to make a complaint against the other person, if the police are waving an Israeli flag or a Palestinian flag, the
Yeah.
people on the other side aren't going to feel like they can safely go to a police officer for help. So it's got effects everywhere, and hopefully, the ruling's going to now give people a standing to take, other organisations that are working in the public sector to task about the way that they pontificate for this nonsense too. So
And
it's been
honestly,
good.
Lindsay, like I want to thank you so much for that, because I was following your case anyway, and that to me was the yes moment, because for me personally, I've always felt very uncomfortable seeing those the progress flag. I find particularly
Yeah,
sinister
I
because
don't
of
like
all
it.
of the other things on it. The good old fashioned rainbow flag. I'm kind of neutral about it, but seeing police cars dressed up with progress the irony, the progress pride flag made me uncomfortable. And like you say, I would have thought, and it's been proven, look how you were treated. You were
Yeah,
not treated fairly, and there was bias in the police. So clarifying the law. Obviously, we've had the Supreme Court judgment clarifying the law. So since all of this, we've also just had, I think it's the IOC now saying that men cannot compete in female boxing, and we've
yeah,
seen lots of other sporting associations quite rightly say that
yeah,
men cannot compete in women's sports. So all of the things really that you were talking about on Twitter, which, like say, 2.5 years ago, were like, oh God, a lot of people weren't saying as themselves, Lindsay, they weren't brave as you anyway to have their own account to say them, and you've been proven right on every single count,
yeah,
I guess. So, and how do you feel now? So you're saying, and I'm a great believer, you can't regret anything, and life takes us on a journey. What would you say to any woman now who really has got something to say on this, whether it's at work or in a private life? And even the BBC this week, we're in amongst all of the disgraceful, biased editing. It's the same thing. If the BBC hate Trump and they want to just be on the left all the time, that's fine, but don't dress it up as unbiased. Don't make us
yeah,
pay for it, right? So, I do read the Telegraph and like Daily Espresso, and I try to get across the board view of my news, and that's fine, because the Telegraph knows what it is. It's on the right, it's on the right
yeah,
side, centrist right, which is what I am. So, um, even within the Trump stuff, there was I think it was 255 apologies for downplaying Israel's suffering and taking their numbers from Hamas. But in amongst that, and weirdly, it wasn't reported on as widely. There was women within the BBC who were complaining about what the BBC was doing, downplaying the gender critical aspect of things,
yeah,
and that hasn't been viewed as that important as Trump. I guess he is, one of the most powerful men in the world, and he actually is very much on the gender critical side of life.
yeah. He's also
Um,
one of the most controversial, isn't he? You can't take that away. He's
you can't absolutely,
very
I know,
controversial, bless him.
very controversial, but
think
lots
he
of
I think he
people.
thrives on it as well, though, to be
Oh,
fair. He loves it.
he loves it. He loves it. But when I've spoken to people, lots of people have heard about the Trump stuff, but they also have not heard about the BBC downplaying, the fact that they were reporting in a biased way. promoting transgender, views and not giving a balanced account. So, it can't be overstated. Like said Lindsay, I want to thank you personally, because I'm not the BBC and I am a big fan of yours. And just thank you as well for all you've been through, because
I appreciate it.
I know it takes its toll on you, doesn't it? So yeah, what would you say then to women who still are in a situation where they can't speak freely? What would you say to them?
I think because I do know as well, like especially in the education sector and things like that, there is a lot of places you still really can't speak freely. But I think the biggest thing I would say is find a group of women or a place where you can voice those opinions so you know you're not alone. Because I think the more voices you find around you to talk about it, the more powerful you start feeling in amongst it. But you also start finding the right way to voice that opinion, and
Yeah,
the confidence to voice the opinion. So you can find all kinds of women's groups. You know that there's the Women's Rights Network, and there's Let Women Speak, and there's all these different organizations like Women's Rights Network and Let Women Speak are two that I'm a part of, and
me too.
I love them both very deeply.
Yeah,
And they are somewhere you can go and find like-minded people to talk about this stuff, you know. So if you can't talk about it in your place of work, I think it can be very lonely when you're surrounded by that. So I would definitely just say find a place with women who think like you, where you can at least get it off your chest. Because if you find a place to get that burden lifted, does
yeah.
make it that bit easier to bite your tongue in the environments where you can't anymore, because you do have a place where you can vent it,
It
you
does,
know.
and I think what I learned, I'm in the WRN and Let Women Speak. You listen to a lot of people who've had these arguments and can eloquently articulate the point
Yeah.
whereas sometimes you can be clumsy. We all can. You learn the arguments and you understand a lot more about the issues. It's not these things aren't always as they seem, are they, Lindsay?
Yeah, and it's not just that, it's the way they formulate the argument. They'll filibuster you, they'll talk over you, they'll use jumbled up language and circular reason. They'll do everything they can to try and confuse, bamboozle, and intimidate you into being quiet.
Yeah,
And I think by being around people who are used to those arguments, who are used to it, and who can eloquently and practically get those points across as well, you start to learn how to fight those battles as well, and you start learning and getting stronger every day in the way you'll do it, you know, because they're very well versed in the way they'll try and shut women down. They know how to do it. They know what buttons to press with women.
yeah,
But what they don't realize is just how strong an army of women can be who are all fighting for the same cause. It's
yeah.
something to be feared. That's something I've realized. These women that I've found in these groups, they are all something to be feared incredibly, because they are so fierce. They really, really are. And
They
the
are.
fierceness of them just empowers everybody else around them. So yeah, find yourself a group of women that where you can really just
Let off a bit of steam
let
and
off a bit of
learn.
steam,
Yeah.
learn and grow.
I think with
Because
regards to the transgender stuff, I think the biggest trick that was played on us all was attaching the T and the Q to the LGB because they have
yeah,
nothing to do with each other at
yeah,
all, rather. And
no,
they attached and then they, like I say, they jumbled up the language, they
yeah.
confused things, they
Conflated everything. They
yeah,
conflated the two causes. Like for me, LGB is a sexuality. You know, it's who you're attracted to. It's sex-based
yeah,
attraction.
you're born that
Yeah.
way, you know?
TQ is identity. It's identity politics. It's putting on a costume almost. And I don't mean to belittle people, because I do know that there are, I do try and hold empathy for everybody
Absolutely.
who I speak to. I think the moment you start losing empathy, you start letting yourself down. So I understand there are that minority of people who do have that gender confusion, that disorder within
Yeah.
themselves where they do have to live a certain way. But I always say, someone who truly feels that way, the last thing they want to do is create a song and dance and draw attention to themselves. What they want to
100%.
do is blend into society, blend in the best way they can, and get on with their lives as quietly and as practically as they can. So
Yeah.
all these people that are making a song and a dance and shouting and screaming, I'm not interested in it, because no true transsexual, because
Yeah.
I've known a few transsexuals and they all feel the same way as me. No
Me
true
too.
transsexual will walk around making a song and a dance about who they are while also crying victim. You want to blend it, just like me as a gay woman. I don't go around talking about the fact I'm a lesbian. I just get on with my life and do what I want to do. And it's the same for a transsexual. All these people making a song and a dance. Nah,
Yeah, I feel
sorry.
like it's those transsexuals and the gender dysphoria people who have actually been the hurt the most by the act of
Yeah, they have, yeah, because
because
they've also tailgated onto it now, and then they've pulled all these other things in, and it has hurt their community. It's hurt their community massively. And it has turned back a lot of understanding and empathy for gay rights
yeah,
and
yeah,
for
it has
transsexuals
actually.
themselves. People, because they've lumped us all together, people lump everything in there. The amount of people who don't know how to talk to me, and I have to sit there and go, look, mate, don't worry about me. Say what you want. I can't be offended. Don't worry. And the relief that washes over them is just, it's quite sad because
Yeah.
no one should have to walk on eggshells. Like, it's ridiculous what they've done to people. It really is. It's sad.
Well, the whole concept of hate speech, it needs to just go away, doesn't it? I had a chat
Yeah.
with a friend, a very sort of left liberal friend, and I was saying that I don't think there should be any limits on free speech other than around the actual law, you know?
Yeah.
And she said to me, well, what about hate speech? And I said, what is hate speech? Because one person's, I don't really think I can be offended. And she said, what if someone said, oh, women are stupid? And I was like, then let them say that out loud because they look stupid. Like,
Yeah.
what are we afraid of here? It's a really strange
And it's
concept.
sticks and stones, isn't it? Sticks and stones may break my
Yeah.
bones, but words will never hurt me. It's like,
And
you
who's the
know,
judge? Who can speak for everyone? Just let everybody speak and let us all decide how we
yeah.
feel about that speech.
Well, I think the threshold of offence is so different for so many other people. To have laws based around offence is just ridiculous
Just
because
so
because
ridiculous.
I don't get offended, and even if I do feel slightly offended by something, it's for like a minuscule second, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
ah, well,
yeah,
because it's if I'm going to hold on to that, the only person I'm harming is myself. It's stressing me out. It's hurting me. The other person doesn't care.
yeah.
Do you know what
They
I
probably
mean?
haven't
So
even
just
realised. Yeah,
yeah, so just let it go. Why you're hurting yourself when you hold on to those things. You're burdening yourself with it. So just let it go. Like your life becomes so much lighter and freer when you
yeah.
just let those things.
Go. I know, let it all go. Well, congratulations on getting back to your beloved football club. I hope you're going
Thank
to be
you.
celebrating and well done. And thank you on behalf of all of us, Lindsay. You're really a
You're
public
welcome.
figure. Thank you.
You're welcome.